Making a roller coaster is somewhat like rocket science. Sure, you can make it taller, bigger, faster, but that's not always going to make it better, and you run the risk of things coming down crashing a lot more easily. Fortunately, one country has started to figure this out, it seems, and might be on the rise when it comes to competing in the roller coaster design industry. This would be China. Finally, after all this time, we might be able to slap a Made in China sticker on roller coasters here in North America. But is this something that we actually will see? Let's dig a little deeper to find out. Wait. So you're telling me that you can buy a roller coaster off of Alibaba? Who wants to join me and pitch in towards doing this? I'm sure it's completely legit. I mean, look at these things. There's no way that anything could go wrong with a plan like this. In all seriousness though, the roller coaster manufacturing industry is one that has a bit less conglomeration than many other industries, except in US markets, because US companies have made a sport out of buying out your competition. Aside from this, we have manufacturers like Rocky Mount Construction, Bolliger & Mabillard, Vekoma, Mach Rides, Gerstlauer, Intamin, Maurer, S&S, Zamperla, you get it. There's a lot of options in this industry, and it's partly the reason why I feel like we still see so much competition here. New companies will often rise and fall trying to make their way into this industry, but one key player that's been itching to secure a spot in the Western markets are Chinese manufacturers. There are more of these than I can even begin to list in a timely manner, so in order to simplify things, I'm just going to focus on a select few to keep this video from getting too long. If you ever try to do a search to see a list of different Chinese roller coaster manufacturers, you'll come to realize there's a ton. Companies like Jinma Rides, SBL, Shipao, and more. So many of these have a very small amount of roller coasters, and most of them just clone rides like Wacky Worms or small family-powered coasters. With the number of manufacturers that do this, I can't personally find any justification to mention them. With other manufacturers like Jinma, SBL, and Hebei Shanghai, you'll come to find out that they love to mimic the creations of manufacturers like Aero, Vekoma, and Maurer. I'm going to focus on these and rate their likelihood of breaking into the Western market. One of the biggest obstacles most of these manufacturers face is a lack of industry confidence. While they certainly do well in Eastern markets, like in Russia, China, as well as some of the Arabic countries, they haven't been given much of a chance outside of these markets. There is a fairly good reason for this, however. Why would a premier amusement park want to go with a knockoff version of a major roller coaster manufacturer if they can't really trust the reliability of it? Adding on to that fact is that a lot of these rides can tend to have dubious quality control, leading to scenes like this. Ultimately, parks just want to prevent themselves from having to spend way too much money on a brand new investment that should just work. A lot of the names of these manufacturers are probably going to display my lack of ability to pronounce non-English names, so I will most likely just abbreviate them. This manufacturer does actually have an officially shortened name, which is SBL. Opened in 1989, they were actually present at IAAPA last year and held a similar position to what Jinma Rides did more than a few years ago. Almost getting kicked out due to the nature of their rides, and also making desperate pleas to anyone who would listen to try to take a look at their products. With over 120 coasters built, this manufacturer is one of the larger Chinese companies that fits the bill for a lot of what these manufacturers are known for. Creating SLC clones, Aero clones, and more. This manufacturer does actually have some slightly more sophisticated models like their dueling coaster, Twin Dragon. Due to the scale of many of their rides, I see a potential for this manufacturer to grow into something bigger, but this all depends on how they continue to do locally. I have no doubt that they'll keep things running steadily, but my hopes aren't crazy high for them to break into the Western market without them coming up with more unique and original ideas. Among some of the others we'll be talking about today, they've been a key player in the Eastern market and continue to expand their catalog with every passing year. It probably doesn't help their chances since this catalog consists mostly of the clones that I mentioned earlier. I'd say that based on the list in this video, SBL is the runner-up for companies that are likely to break out of China. It's likely at some point that a Western amusement park, most likely in Europe, will be the first to take a bite with an SBL coaster. I'm curious how this might turn out, but I don't have super high expectations, at least for now. If it helps inspire any confidence in their chances, take a look at these images with me. If these don't paint the picture of craftsmanship, then I don't know what does. Moving on to our next manufacturer, we have Hebei Shanghai Metallurgical Equipment. I'll be calling them MCC since that's the name of their parent company. This manufacturer has a similar amount of installations to SBL, but a much worse reputation amongst Chinese coaster enthusiasts. With a total of about 120 roller coasters, most of them are, unsurprisingly, knockoffs of Vekoma SLCs, Aero Multi-Loopers, Vekoma Boomerangs, and other small family and kiddie coasters. These have a reputation for being rough and kinda sketchy. This company has the numbers to potentially break out of the country, but not the reputation. It would take some fairly decent leaps and bounds for them to break into a different market. One thing that could paint a picture towards them going in this direction is their new 11 inversion model. There's so far one of these being installed, and it looks to be a knockoff of the Intamin 10 inversion model. It'll be interesting to see if they can pull this off without it being insanely rough. I'm personally not very hopeful of this, however. In the near future, I'm assuming that there is a very low likelihood for this company to go places, but given 10, 15, maybe 20 years? Who knows? They could just as easily fold in this amount of time, depending on the success of this latest model they've introduced. Now, let's focus on something more unique. This is my guilty pleasure pick and doesn't have much of a chance of success at all, at least in my opinion. This would be Xi'an Shuobo Amusement Equipment. I'll call them XS for the time being. This company opened in 2018 and only has 4 coasters to their name. If you want to call this segment padding, then call it what it is. Just look at their designs. In a weird sort of irony, the least likely company on this list to make it to Western markets, at least in the near future, have one of the most unique designs out of all of these manufacturers. Acting as a sort of mix between an Aero Multi-Looper layout with track that looks somewhat inspired by Zero designs, their coasters are different. They're obscure enough that I haven't heard anything about them, and there doesn't seem to be a ton of discussion online about them either. What has been said is that the roll on their designs is fairly smooth, but that the rest of the coaster is atrocious. So no, I don't see them breaking into the Western market anytime soon. They're just too fresh and have such a limited install base that it's unlikely we'll see any major moves from them in the near future. Sitting in first place as our most likely contender to break into the Western market is Jinma Rides. Also known as Golden Horse, this company was opened in 1983 and has almost 400 coasters to their name. A large smattering of these are knockoffs of Vekoma SLCs, Zamperla Moto coasters, Reverchon Spinning Wild Mice, Mauer Spike and spinning coasters, B&M Flying, Dive, and multi-launch coasters, Aero Mine Trains, the list goes on. Their reputation paints them as having rougher coasters in their past and improving, if slowly, in their newer models. If a major manufacturer has a ride model, Jinma wants to take that design as their own. Something I haven't mentioned yet, they were actually kicked out of IAAPA in 2012 due to an intellectual property lawsuit filed by Zamperla. Doesn't paint a good picture for them, huh? This is one of the biggest challenges these manufacturers face. A lot of them have gained their success from copycat rides that are inferior to their inspiration. I'm of the opinion that if they tried to use the same tactics in the US or EU, they'd get sued into oblivion. They've already been sued by Zamperla and lost that case. Something surprising I learned, Jinma Rides does actually have a subsidiary company called Noble Rides, with offices based in Switzerland and the US. With the exception of one or two smaller parks taking a potential risk on them with cheaper installations, I personally don't see this being too successful of an endeavor for them. That is, unless these subsidiaries operate mostly independently and offer more unique ride models. They have the greatest chance of succeeding, but at the same time, even that chance is slim at best. In the lawsuit that Zamperla filed against Jinma Rides, other companies such as SBL were included there too. Part of the reason why I feel the chances are so slim for these manufacturers is not only because of their potential industry reputation, but also because of the competition. Let's try a thought experiment. Imagine you're an amusement park operator with a plot of land in your park that needs a roller coaster. Let's go through the list of options. If you want something big, there's a good number of choices. Let's narrow it down a bit further. Say you want a launching coaster. Well, if reliability is what you're looking for, there's Mach Rides, B&M, Intamin, and Premier. Those would be your first choices if you had a larger budget. If you're feeling risky, you might try S&S Worldwide. If you're feeling slightly less risky and maybe want to save a little bit of money, why not try Vekoma instead? You also have Gerstlauer as an option, and one that is still proving itself, Zamperla. So that leaves you with 10 potential options. Realistically, there's more, but stay with me. Let's say you change your mind and you want a large-scale, steel, multi-inversion coaster. Even though this is a hybrid, there is RMC, which will be extremely popular, albeit slightly risky on reliability. But the cost is lower, so that negative doesn't hit as hard. If you have a bigger budget, why not consider B&M, Mach Rides, Intamin, or Vekoma? Slightly more risky options, because they haven't fully proven themselves yet, would include Chance Rides, Zamperla, or Zierer. If you're feeling more risky with reliability, why not consider an S&S? This leaves Gerstlauer as a lower capacity option, which is not a bad one, I might add. Okay, what about if you wanted something new, groundbreaking, and unique? Well, there's always Intamin, S&S, Vekoma, and RMC. I'm sure by now that you get the point. In order for one of these companies to succeed, they're going to have to find a way to compete in this incredibly saturated market and make a name for themselves. Don't even get me started on the family coaster market. This would include every manufacturer I've listed and then some. I'm grateful for the competition, but when it's this fierce, it makes it difficult to not only get started, but also to stand out. This is the big reason why I feel this way. What companies like Jinma and SBL need is to craft something unique and to carve out their own niche. It will take them proving that they can do something more cost-effective, reliable, and innovative than their competition for them to have even the slightest of chances to get into this market. Based on the efforts of Jinma as of late, however, they look to be headed in the right direction to make this happen. I don't mean to sound completely pessimistic about these manufacturers' chances, but this is a challenging industry. Whenever you have so much competition as this one does, it takes a lot to stand out. There's also the factor of time as well. Western amusement parks need to be willing to take a risk on one of these companies so they can get their foot in the door. If someone does, then other parks can gauge the success of that first attempt. This is another part of the challenge too. If your first impression doesn't work out, you are extremely unlikely to break into the market. However, if no one is willing to take a risk on your company, then the door may as well be closed to you before you even get started. There are countless new models that major manufacturers attempt to introduce every single year, and it's telling how many of these actually get off the ground. The theme park industry is full of some very cautious individuals, which leads to a lot of them not being all that willing to take risks. This leaves projects like the RMC T-Rex model or the S&S Freefly models to have little to no impact on the market despite their innovations. So, do I see something happening soon? Yes. Some park will most likely be willing to take a risk on a company like Jinma Rides, at least for something small like a family coaster. We can only wait for that time to come to see whether or not it pans out for them in the end. If you're like me, I'm actually fairly curious to see what happens. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like and comment below and hit that bell icon. Special thanks to our Patreon supporter, Future Collective. $1 a month helps me bring even more content to you guys, and I even have some exclusive content coming, so check it out. Check the description below to find links to the rest of our pages. Thanks for watching the video, and ride on, Coaster Maniacs!